Crank 'em up.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 26 of Chasin Tails. Tonight, we're going to get into the depths about the Honda engine and possibly introducing it into APBA. Hopefully, we'll see.
So we do put out some info. Invited a lot of people to come on. I think there was a little miscommunication that everyone thought this was more like a Zoom conversation. What we want you to do, guys, is watch on the live here on Facebook. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything you want to pop on and say, you can either hop on with us live, say it live, or you can drop it in the comments, either or. But I think we'll get straight into business. Obviously, everyone's seen the HRL combination, this Honda K20A. They've done a spec class. One guy building them, Eric Lacoste. He's done a great job developing this motor. I believe, and it's in our opinion, that it's the closest thing to the 2300 you can get. Obviously, if you go off dyno numbers, everybody gets different dyno numbers. But you go with just straight true racing, it's been so competitive with the 2300s. I believe Kyle did some data work on some of the times. Maybe you jump in and kind of say where some of the fast times wound up this year.
So, like the top, again, this is varying courses, but top 10, though, Honda, Ford, Honda, Ford, Honda, Ford. And then if you look at it like on a different course basis, at Cambridge, the average heat time for a Ford was 4 minutes and 1 second, and for a Honda, it was 4 minutes and 11 seconds. Sorrel, 4 minutes and 7 for the Ford, 4 minutes and 13 for the Honda. Valleyfield, it was 4 minutes and 40 seconds for the Ford, and 4 minutes and 35 seconds for the Honda. Tonawanda was 4 minutes and 10 seconds for the Ford, 4 minutes and 4 seconds for the Honda, and in Bahornwa, that was Bahornwa. No, it wasn't. Bahornwa was 4 minutes and 4 for the Ford, and 4 minutes and 19 for the Honda.
Pretty similar.
Back and forth.
Yeah, it goes back and forth. I mean, I know a lot of people. There's some people who have some speculations about the Honda and then don't want to bring it in. I would like to point out that this is the closest engine that you can ever bring into a class to be competitive with the current engine in history of APBA. You can look at the Ford that we're running currently. When we brought that in, that pretty much eliminated the 2000. The 2000 not competitive. The 1 liters, they brought in the 2 strokes. The 3KCs had no chance to keep up with the 2 strokes. The 350 with 5 liters, the 305s had no chance to keep up with the 350s. I think the only engine that APBA has brought in that is competitive or might not even have the edge would be the 305 Chevy and the Jersey Speed Skiffs, because the 283 is still dominating over the 305.
Right.
So, I mean, right now in a hydro class, this is the closest thing you could get to being identical, but a newer power plant with a lot more technology put into it.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. I think the racing shows it. I mean, it's consistency. They're out there, turnkey, go, come back. You're not worrying about anything. Obviously, we have many conversations on here about carburation. They're awesome. It's moving to the future. Now, I do know one hold up before we get into some more of the details of the Honda is a lot of people say it's a 20-year-old engine. Yes, it was last produced in 2006. There's no denying that. But Pienza's already been run for 3-4 years now, and you got all that data behind it. It's a right now fix. Obviously, 2300s, you can't get the S-Slinger heads. You can't get a camshaft. Those of racers that run 8-10 races a year, if you blow a motor, you might be screwed. I mean, we went and borrowed 2 camshafts in the past 2 years. We're running out of friends to borrow them from.
yeah.
So this may never not be the next 10-year fix. Might not be 15-year or 50-year like this 2300 was. We got our money's worth out of this one. But it's a long-term future or short-term future fix while we develop maybe the next motor. And once you have the parts like the gearbox, any motor nowadays is going to need a gearbox because of the way they're built. Center line of the cranks, you can't get an oil pan under them. So any motor is going to need a gearbox. And then I think now you're going to have a baseline of a knowledge of an ECU. You're not going to be as scared. This is the first, well, second, because of the 1.9 motor, second ECU motor to come in the APBA. A lot of people are scared that you can cheat with them, you can do this, that, and that. These things are password protected. You can, within 20 seconds, you can open up the file and know if someone's cheated with it. It's a lot simpler than trying to measure throttle bodies and all these venturi sizes and all that stuff that you have to measure on a carburetor. So that's it. You're just replacing the carburetor with something electronic, and it'll become common sense, I think, as we use it more often.
Yeah, and
I think so too.
I think a point that we haven't even really made, but something that was brought up literally just talking to my friend who does car racing and stuff is it's kind of hard to get young people into a sport with engines and a carburetor that I think a lot of people my age or younger wouldn't even know what a carburetor is if you showed it to them. Every kid knows what a computer is, and just
100% agree.
Can figure out a data software.
I 100% agree. I mean, the thing that gets me is there's people afraid of ECUs, but there's people who are not afraid to go drop $1,500 on getting a carburetor worked.
Right.
I mean, I'm not here to try to bash the Fords. I mean, I ran 2.5 stock for 20 some years, and I love the class. I love the Ford. It's been a good engine for the class. But the scarcity of parts, good parts these days, yeah, you can go get a camshaft for $2,300 right now, but it's not the good camshaft. And
I think one thing people keep forgetting is no one is forcing the Fords out. If you want to continue to run a Ford, there are quite a few Fords out there that are beating Hondas and are very competitive, and they have tuned them and know it so well. You can keep.
Well,
running
we just had Kyle go through the numbers, and a lot of the numbers Fords were faster than the Honda.
Yeah.
Did a Honda win the championship in HRL this year? Yeah, but a lot of things go into play in winning a championship: penalties, breakdowns, blah blah blah, all that stuff. A lot of luck. Not that Eddie needed a lot of luck; he had a great year, did pretty amazing, and but the Fords were fast. Could Eddie go win on the outside of the F92? Probably not. Can the F92 go win on the outside of the Eddie Canfouche? Probably not. They're pretty dead even boats. I mean, same thing goes with Grant Liddycoat would run in his Ford. I mean, they were so even. It was. I thought at the beginning of the year, I did not think a Ford stood a chance. I literally thought it was just going to be.
Yeah, if we go back to that episode after Cambridge, we're all like, "Oh no, this thing's too fast! This thing's too fast!" and everyone's emailing HRL. And
you know what?
Things changed.
You know what? The F92 and the F97 proved it wrong. I mean, we were wrong. We were wrong.
Friday final in Valleyfield was deck 2, deck 4, 3 laps between
with a Honda and a Ford.
Right. So yeah,
the Ford won on the outside.
Right. One point I really like about this package is it's not really changing the fast guys. Like we look at Eddie when he changed from Ford to a Honda. Did he get a little faster? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but not much. What it's going to do is take them middle pack guys and bring them to be competitive, at least in their engine program. Now they can start focusing on other things. To me, the 2.5 stock semi-modified class, it seems like it's become either you got a lot of time and you can invest it in all your tuning and all that stuff, getting that stuff perfect, or you got money to dump into it to have someone do it. Yeah. And that part is what brings those smaller guys back in the picture with the Hondas, in my opinion. Like, you can just go buy it and you know within that you are within 4 horsepower of anybody else because they're all dyno sealed. And that's the package that we're proposing, the APBA, that anyone can build their motor, but you go into a certified dyno, which it'll be vetted to one engine. They get their parameters, and it has to be within that parameters. If it's not, you're illegal before it even hits the boat because you obviously did something. It'll get sealed, the ECU will get sealed, and off you go. And probably won't have to touch it for 3 to 4 years, unlike Fords where you usually have to rebuild.
I mean, you do a leak down on a Ford halfway through the season, and it's not where it was at the beginning of the season. Right. It's just old technology in these Fords. They're not meant to hold up as good as the engines of this century. One thing I gotta say about the Honda, it didn't take a fast boat with a Ford, put a Honda in it, and make it faster than it was with the Ford in it. What this Honda is allowing is you can take a middle of the pack boat, say if it was 10th out of 20, you can take it and it's a third place boat. It is taking these older, heavier hulls and make them more competitive. We have seen it in HRL. We've seen this, for instance, the F-113. It wasn't that quick. It's a heavier hull. They hit the right combination with the prop, the gears, and with the Honda engine, and they went out and I believe they won Bahornwall.
Thing was
Well,
on time.
The thing was smoking fast.
Yeah,
it took a heavy boat, and made it competitive. What would that do for APBA for all these guys who run 4th, 5th, 6th? It would put them up in the mix. It would bring everyone closer together to be more competitive. Now I know John Shaw said that these Hondas will they're good on the 1 mile course and not on the bigger course.
They're going to be better on the bigger course.
Yeah, they're going to be better on the bigger courses. We can't speak of that. We haven't seen one on a bigger course. John, you can't speak of that because you haven't seen one on a bigger course.
Yeah.
So,
I watched J. Michael Kelly run with Grant Hearn just fine in Decatur.
Yeah, that was a big course. So that's the other thing is these things, in the respect of that, again, we don't know until it happens. And yes, maybe it might make a little bit of a difference. But those things that when they hit the rev limiter, it's dead stop. You lose all your forward momentum. And that's when the Fords catch up. So if you have a big sweep and turn and you're not dropping RPMs in the turn, how are you going to gear for that? So there's still going to be a struggle there. Yes, maybe 1 year or 2 years down the road, they're going to get faster, but it's not going to be lights out. In my opinion, if you're a third place boat and you switch to a Honda, you're most likely still going to be a third place boat. You're not just going to go up to the first, but you're going to be able to now start working on your setup. You're not going to be chasing your tail.
Yeah. One thing about great thing about the sealed engine is what you have with your engine, unless you get a fault code on one of the sensors and stuff. But you know the power's there, so you don't have to worry about, is it my boat setup, is it my prop, or is it the engine? Now you eliminate the engine. You know that's good. Now you're like, okay, well I need to work on my boat setup, or I need to work on my prop, or now we need to work on my gears. It eliminates a lot of problems that a lot of people struggle with. So I like it. Do we have any questions? Anyone want to get in here, jump in here, talk to us, get on the podcast? If there's any information that you have a question about, either jump in here on live with us and ask it, or ask it in the chat, and we'll try to answer everything as we can.
Yes, I did. One on the chat was that Scott says when you put one in the 97, it'll blow everyone away. I mean, it is a new updated boat, but again, why do we keep letting boats get wider and wider and wider? So it's not going to be the engine's fault. It's the people that keep making boats different. So everybody wants to blame an engine, but we built a real wide boat. Ours will probably be fast with a Honda, but we chased our tail all year with that engine because we don't have the knowledge and the time to invest in making sure that carburetor's tuned perfect, and don't have the budget to put into it. So to me, you put an engine in that I know is going to run. Now we can work on boats that everyone can. Look at Gilm Charette this year, and I don't know all the details of him, but he chased his tail all year. Yeah. Lake Packham, he was outrunning the Hondas. So it's kind of like he found the speed, but he spent all year to find it.
I mean, the problem with the carburetor, I don't see us trying to drop $1,300 into a carburetor like these top guys who are running 2.5s. I mean, there's way better places to invest your money than a $1,300 carburetor. I mean, put it this way, to go buy, if you want to be one of the fastest Fords in HRL or APBA, you're going to go spend over $10,000-$12,000 to have a good engine built by a top engine builder,
or a ton of time. There's people that can do it themselves. They have the knowledge, but it takes a lot of time. I mean, Al Thompson, he's got one of the fastest boats out there, but The man's like a mad scientist, and I mean, no discredit to him. Don't ever take that wrong, you
No.
guys listening. I mean, did their homework, and that's what they said in that meeting in HRL last year when they were against the Honda. HRL told them to do their homework. Well, come on now, they did. They were the record-setting boat, so that was kind of wrong. But that's what a lot of the other guys can't keep up. I mean, Scott and Grant, they did an amazing job this year.
Yeah.
They came. I think they shocked everyone with how fast they were, but they put a ton of time into it.
Yep.
And like you said, if the Honda's in that boat, it might be faster. But okay, but at least we're on a level playing field of engine wise. Now make your boats faster.
Well, that's all ifs and buts. I mean, we have HRL. There's 5 years of proof in the pudding with HRL with the Honda running. So we're not going to talk about, well, what if the Honda was in this boat or that boat? That we're not going to talk about things that has not been yet. Let's talk about the facts that are actually on the table, the facts that actually have been proven. I mean, it is proved that it is the Honda is on par with the Ford, not better, not less. It has proven that the Honda can take a overweight boat and put it out front, but it's not saying that boat's dominating because that boat only won one race this year. But and then what about the other fact I was trying to get to with the price of the Ford being $10,000 to $12,000? Startup cost to get this Honda without going the HRL route, if we go the route that we're proposing, $9,000, and that is getting your gearbox, ECU, engine mounts, everything else. So that's $9,000, and then you're after that. How much did we have after that? If your startup cost is out of the way.
So basically, we just put it up on the screen for you guys to do a long block. That's to dynoed and sealed, $4,500. Everything ready to go. And now, obviously, different engine builders are going to be different. You can even do this thing yourself and probably save a lot of money. We have like $1,200 in an engine guy that gave us a quote. And then your extras, which obviously are a little expensive. Your ECU's $1,200, but on that, a lot of people are worried about them getting wet. Matisse has been upside down 3 times, I believe. His is still running fine. And then you got your gearbox and all the like block off plates and stuff like that have to go on the motor. All the externals outside of the motor add up to about $4,500. So once you're starting from scratch, it's around $9,000. Ready to go in the boat, and obviously your second motor around $4,500. Costs vary obviously from people. We also believe that you can maybe run it stock, but again, it's one of those things that's never been tried. Eric, with his knowledge with Hondas, doesn't really think so. He thinks that the pistons would seize, but I know Conrad out west with the Duratec runs it straight off the junkyard, so I would assume they'd be similar. But again, we can't come here and be like, hey, you can go get a junkyard motor, put this stuff on and go run it, because it's never been tested. So we are quoting it as it's built from HRL, and this is going to be HRL's rules. Breaking news on Chasin Tails. They told me I could say it. You're going to be allowed to build your own engine or have somebody build it, and it goes to a certified dyno source, and it gets sealed on that dyno within 4 horsepower of whoever others motors are on there.
That's awesome.
Question that Schaller had was, are there any restrictions on the gearbox?
I believe there's rules on the gearbox. There's some like end play rules, and it's a certain in and out box with Winter's gears. The gears have to be weighed. I haven't seen the rules. HRL was writing up some more strict rules. I haven't seen them yet. But I know that when they inspected Eddie this winter or after the season, they weighed gears and did all that. So it's pretty spec as you can get on a gearbox. And it's, like I said, just a simple in and out box. We manufactured the first one back in 2005, a H-tool machine for the Y boats. They've been running for 20 years in that. A West Coast source has copied it, and obviously Canada as well. So there's multiple sources. It's, if anyone wanted to build them, they probably could put their knowledge together and build them. Obviously, we put ours in the package and rebuild it strictly for the Honda.
Mm-hmm. We want to let anyone in? Is there people in the waiting room?
People in.
Yeah.
You want to pick one at a time, and we'll give them a few minutes and then cycle them out?
Yeah, that's fine.
And if Beep Beep wants to be on, he's
No.
denied tonight.
He's banned.
All right. We'll let Eddie in, see if he wants to give his opinion as one that switched from 2300 to the Honda. Hey, Eddie.
Hey, what's going on, bud? Mr. Champion.
You got me?
Hey,
Yeah,
what's
you
up,
do.
bud?
Yeah. Well, I came on to say a bunch of stuff, and you guys already kind of covered most of it.
Well, that is
drove
our job.
both of them.
We've been.
There's a lot of things getting thrown out about the engine, so I had some data straight from Eric. Cost wise, I know that's the first concern that everybody has. $13,000 for the complete package from Eric. This is, without building it yourself. This is from an engine builder that's been building them for the last 5 years. $13,000.
The HRL package.
The HRL package is $13,000 US complete, and then a long block is $6,500. And I mean, if you want to buy a Ford right now, it's going to cost you $10,000 for a refreshed one. I don't know what a new one's going to cost you. So cost wise, really, it's not much different. It's going to be a hit for people that are switching, obviously, but that's the case with any engine you're going to change to. In terms of performance, time-wise, I've driven both now in 1 year. Won races with the Honda, beat Bobby with the Ford.
One time.
The highest speed top end, at least, I saw all year. There was a Ford that weekend that went faster than that. I can tell you that without giving too much information away. It's not always about top end, but you look at the times in 2500. We were fastest 3 races out of 6. The Fords were fastest 3 races out of 6. Grant was fastest at 2 of them. John was fastest at 1 of them. Then the big course gets brought up a lot. I don't know if you want to consider Cambridge a big course, but my time in the final in Cambridge, or not my final heat time, but my best time in Cambridge was half a second slower than John's best time in Cambridge the year before. So they're a lot closer than people think, and I can attest to that now, having driven both of them back to back. Really, I think what the Honda gains you is the tunability with the gearbox, which, on a big course you would think would help, and really we haven't run on anything so large that we know yet. And the other thing...
Well, 1.25 miles, Decatur.
Yeah. The other thing I'm thinking of is, one difference no one thinks about is the fact that it is, an ECU fuel-injected motor. One thing I noticed I wasn't expecting in Cedar Creek was there's a bit of throttle lag with the carburetor. So that's just a case of a newer engine being, slightly more responsive. Really, What are you going to do? You're going to cut down on costs of props because you're only going to need a couple. Gears really aren't all that expensive.
Gears $90 a set versus $2,000 for a brand new DeWalt prop.
Exactly. Yeah, and the times are close. I have a sheet. It's not super up to date because I don't have the gap for when I was the fastest. But when I wasn't the fastest, if I go to Brockville, Grant was 0.3 of a second faster than me through the whole heat. If we go to Tonawanda, John was half a second faster through the whole heat. Valleyfield, Grant was 3.5 seconds faster than me in his best heat versus mine. So, it's...
And
close.
John and Grant are both Fords.
Right. And then you go look at, that heat in Bahornwall right before John had his issue with the throttle linkage. I don't know that I was going to beat him in that heat. He was on the outside. He had a better start. You look at me and Sam. We had a few good races all year where it was literally just whoever hit the better start won the heat. And... that kind of competition is something that I think having everyone within a few horsepower is going to bring.
Yeah,
so,
I agree with it.
Hey,
Definitely
Kevin, I see your comment. You said if you want to compare prices, bring your Ford motor cost on the table to be transparent to with the Honda. If I don't know where you get your engines built from, but if Paul Hewitt was still around, if you go to Hewitt, you go to Marty Hack or Primo or any of those guys who are competitive in HRL and out west, they're spending anywhere between $10,000 and $12,000 to have a Ford engine built. And you can look at Eddie Canfouche with the Red Boat in in Caesars Creek, just what $10,000 gets you. That boat's pretty fast. So the Ford to go get that built, I mean, compared to what we're proposing to APBA is actually more expensive than the Honda.
Well, you want
for a complete package, and then once you want a long block, then it's 6,000. It's not going to be 9,000.
You want full transparency here. We're in the process of selling a motor that's been refreshed. It's not a brand new motor, and we're selling it for just under $10,000.
Because you can charge that because you can't get parts.
You can't get the head.
You cannot get an. You can't get an aluminum head, and I know they say the Beauport head is close. Well, why are those that have the Beauport head still running the aluminum head?
Yeah,
instead
the guy who did the dyno work for the Beauport head to get numbers for the IRC is still running the aluminum head, so that throws it out the window there.
And that's, I forget. Hold on, let me look it up.
The other thing with the Beauport head,
because we had the Beauport done last winter. And to get one of those is... Jeez, I sent a lot of messages.
Yeah, the other thing with the Beauport is...
Well, he's finding that.
Somebody talk for me while I try to find that.
The other thing with the Beauport is, wasn't the whole argument when the aluminum head was brought in was that you couldn't get the iron heads anymore. So you're just slapping a Band-Aid on a 50-year-old motor. I understand the Honda's not a new production motor, but it's significantly newer than the Ford. And
so, yeah.
I mean...
Thanks for bringing that up. I almost made a Circle of Life post today, but I was like, I'm going to wait. So I sat in those meetings, I think it was 10 years ago, in the IRC meeting, and fought this aluminum head. Because at that time, I thought it was the dumbest thing ever to go to an aluminum head, making 2.5 stock, now 2.5 semi-modified. When at that time, we had the Duratec on the table. Willard Wilson was working on it. Now Conrad Malmo, hopefully I didn't butcher that last name, has it out there. But nobody wanted to go to it. It was like foreign to them. This was a junkyard engine for $500. Slap it. I think they were using stock ECUs. Put it in the boat and go. No gearbox then. And the IRC shut it down like they didn't even give it time of day. And now we did that because, like I said, we couldn't get iron heads. Then we went to different things throughout. Now we can't get camshafts. Now we can't get aluminum heads. So the Circle of Life is back to, hey, everybody still got iron heads because they didn't throw them away like anchors. So let's go ahead and modify that for, I found the price, $2,600, plus you got to supply them with the camshaft. So there's half that's almost your gearbox and accessories cost in a cylinder head.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand a lot of people have Fords in the garage. We have 2. We have actually 3, with one with the stock iron head. But we got to start thinking of, what's going to happen when the stuff starts blowing and we start losing camshafts on the guys that race more than 2 or 3 times a year? There needs to be an option, and this is the option that does not force the Fords away.
And also,
third place Ford, you're still going to be a third place Ford if a Honda comes in.
And I want to point out, this isn't to bring in the Honda to eliminate the Ford engine. We want to keep the Ford engine around as long as someone wants to run it. We want to bring this in as an engine option, because it is dead nuts even with the Ford. You cannot go out and get another engine that's going to be this even. I know they're working on the Mazda right now. Kyle, this is to answer your question. They are working on the Mazda right now, but that's another 5 years down the road because they have to do all the research. They have to get into the boat. They have to see it run, collect data, blah, 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 all that. This engine, Honda, has been around for 5 years already in HRL. It's been in boats. It's been in multiple boats. I believe it's eight or nine boats. I mean, so that it's already, we already have the data. We have everything. It's dead nuts even with the Ford. So why not have that option? I'm sure a lot of people in this chat doesn't even know that there's already another engine option out there that the IRC proved a handful of years ago, but it's not competitive. The hell is that? Well, stop it. All right. But there is another engine option out there. A guy out west runs it. He's been running it for close to 10 years probably, and it's not competitive. It's not a viable option. You would get it and then put it in your boat and then probably go backward. You definitely go backwards than when you had the Ford. But at least with the Honda, you could put it in your boat and If you're a top boat, you're going to stay a top boat. But if you're a mid-pack boat, you're going to move up and be more competitive, because that has shown in HRL that the middle pack boats are more competitive with the front running boats with the Honda versus when they were running the Ford. So Eddie, you have anything else to add?
The only other thing I got is we're rapidly approaching a point with APBA to where if you don't let the Honda run, you're going to start losing boats on the East Coast, at least. I mean, we're going to have 2 Hondas next year, and I can tell you that's part of why we did not go to any APBA races this year until the end of the year. We just, not a legal motor, so we're not going to go. And I'm sure we're not the only ones. And I know a lot of people are going to say run 2.5 mod,
Nope.
but that's not the class
Who
of
wants
boat.
to run 2.5 mod? 2.5 mods should be stepping up with 350s if they want to keep running. 2.5 stocks. I'll go on this rant. 2.5 stocks and 1 liter mod should be combined. 2.5 mods.
This is a different podcast.
Yeah. Different night.
I'll be the mediator. We got.
So
I mean,
one question Jeff Bernard just had was, when will there be an actual set of rules? That is being worked on. They're working on it in HRL right now to give you some guidelines. I don't understand why being within 4 horsepower can't work in APBA. If you go to a certain dyno, obviously if it goes to a different dyno and all of a sudden it's way more, somebody's cheating. But I do agree, I guess, in a sense that you can have a backup plan. So, okay, if it does go over on the dyno, it goes to so-and-so to get tore down. But the ideal is to get away from doing inspections at races. I mean, we're trying to do it anyway, but you're not inspecting what's already inspectable anyway. You're pulling out of a hat. Okay, 350s get tore down this week. So we're already away from inspections. So why not make it to where you see it on the dyno, it's sealed, you can't touch the motor. And then it also keeps the motor builders from saying, hey, I made like 3 more horsepower, give me 10 grand. It kind of keeps the cost down.
You open up engines for engine builders to get their hands in it. All it's going to do is create costs to go up. It has done it with the Ford over the past 15 years. 15 years ago, you can get a Ford for $6,000. Now you can't get one for a brand new one from an engine builder. Say, give me a Ford 2300. You can't get it for under $10,000. It's because these guys say they put a engine in a boat, it goes out and wins. So guess what? The price just went up. This engine builder goes and beats that guy. This price just went higher than this price. And it's gotten out of hand with these engine builders. So, I mean, the great thing about the dyno is if we can take one base, we take one engine, send it to the dyno HRL, that's a known number. We take that sealed engine, ship it to this dyno. They get their numbers without changing anything. You compare those two. All right, well, your dyno is a little different, so this is your baseline that you're going to use when engines are shipped to you. And then the great thing is you get with the dyno, you get the horsepower curve and you get the torque curve. So I don't care what you do. Go ahead and, I mean, try to cheat. But once it's on that dyno and your torque curve goes way up, but your horsepower still teeters off at the same, you're illegal. You get tossed out. There's no reason to get out of hand with opening these up to these engine builders who just want to raise the prices.
And they did say something about changes of correction factors. This is why it's not going to be open to any dyno people. It would be one on the East Coast, one Central, and one West Coast. And these are guys that you can trust, in my opinion, is how we need to find them. The only one we got right now that I've talked to is Marty Wolf. We need to find one for the East and West. And obviously we have Eric Lacoste up in Canada, maybe some others that I don't know about. But they're going to be vetted. I mean, if they dyno a motor and they say it's in the range and they seal it, and all of a sudden that motor's out there winning, it's going to go to another dyno to get tested. And if it's over there, then there's big ramifications. It's not new technology. It's new to hydroplane racing, but the 602 modifieds are doing this a lot in dirt track racing, and it's reduced the cheating in the crate class. It's reduced all kinds of stuff. It's just, I mean, maybe it's not financially feasible in the short term, but in the long term, you're good to go. And there will be some provisions on, like, if you flip and you got to tear it down, okay, then the referee / inspector can be like, all right, you're going to tear us down. When you get back to the next race, you're sealed. If all of a sudden you're blowing everybody away and you weren't the week before, of course you're going to get inspected. So again, back to Jeff's point, if we need some rules, you need CCs, but I mean, we talked about with Eric that you can measure the head thickness. Boom, easy. You know if somebody decked that head, and you can do that without taking it off. Obviously, lightweight parts are easy to check. You're checking against stock parts. You're not checking for people that are porting and polishing and stuff like that. I mean, obviously they can do that and cheat, but the dyno will catch that before anything else. And the other comment to make is talking with Eric, these things are tuned to the max. So it's max safe horsepower. And that's how any spec motor should be, is you're not going to make any more horsepower without a camshaft change.
Jeff Bernard and Scott Liddico both said, well, Jeff says, who pays for dyno time? That's usually another
$650 was the quote I got. And that's built into your price. That's cheaper than a Ford.
And then Scott says, who pays for the motor going to another dyno?
That's something we got to cross. I don't have an answer for that. But, I mean, it's got to be on the series or maybe on APBA or HRL. Obviously, it's easy in HRL. We're all in a closed net. But for APBA, we're cross country, West Coast, East Coast, makes it so difficult. But you're not going to get any more horsepower out of these things. So
that's funny. Scott Liddico asked that. He's still hoarding like 2 or 3 aluminum heads, and he sold his 2.5 stock. And we wonder why we have a head problem, because people keep holding them. You know, there's the West Coast guy who has 2 or 3 of them and doesn't want to go to the Honda.
We're gonna bring some more people in here now.
Yeah, kick me out at any point. I've said.
All right, Eddie. Well, do you have anything to add? Or?
No, nothing really. The one question I did see that is a good question is, if the 2 motors are even, why would the Honda make a middle of the pack boat good? And that's because the difference between a good Honda and a bad Honda is 4 horsepower. The difference between a good Ford and a bad Ford can be upwards of 20, and the Hondas are the same as a good Ford. So.
All right, real quick. Your dad has built a number of Ford 2300 engines over the years. What's his take on the Honda versus the Ford?
He likes the Honda project. Obviously, there's going to be pros and cons with everything. That's a question he would be able to answer more fully eventually. But no, he's on board with the motor. We ran it all year. We got a lot of good data on it, and I think he thinks it's a good way to go, and so do I.
Yeah. And lastly, we said this on Chasin Tails before the season started. I think Bobby was the one that pushed it. Was like, with Dan Canfush and Jim Scheckler, and I think other people have said it, with their knowledge for gears, they're going to blow everybody away. I didn't see that. Yeah. So it's not as like, oh, this guy knows a lot. It's going to just change the world. Like, it's still an engine and gear.
No. I mean, if anyone has any tips on how to try to make this work rather than trying to push it in the ground, I mean, we're having this podcast to get information out there, and also,
all right, we'll let Eddie go real quick.
All right, how could we improve this? How could we improve this rule proposal?
To go off what you're saying, Bob, John Shaw just commented, why not just have a set of rules and just run a sealed ECU, get away from the dyno stuff? At the end of the day, we need to all remember we are a podcast of 4 boat racers that want to move the sport forward. We want to hear ideas. What we are proposing or saying is not what we have to do or what APBA has to do. If we can think collectively to make this sport better and make this class better, and let's do it instead of just saying it's going to kill boats or it's going to kill this. How about you build an idea or come up with another engine or help us build this to something that can truly work?
So on that point with what John said, I'd ask, I know, Eric, you're still listening. What do you think about that? Is there things that you as an engine builder could go in there and tweak on to make more horsepower without changing camshafts? Obviously, you said it's safe max the way it is now with the rule set. But if you started to play and not comparing like pistons rods, they're easy to inspect. Camshafts, easy to inspect. CCs are easy to inspect. But are there things that these motor builders could start getting away with? That's what we're trying to avoid, in our opinion, with the dyno, is you're eliminating the chance of someone going beyond. I mean, look at the 283s for skiffs. How many people are doing things within those heads and that are
around the
50% of
rules,
them.
but nobody knows how to test. Nobody's CC and runners, stuff like that. Like engine builders are, it's not built to cheat. I mean, look at NASCAR back in the day. Cheating was the coolest thing ever. Like some of the stories you hear out of there. So it's trying to avoid that in a stock class. And I have a bigger feeling for it because obviously running the 2 spec cars in SCCA, that it's awesome. You don't have to worry. You don't have to be like, damn, I just got beat by a Primo motor. I just got beat by a Hewitt motor. I need to go buy one of those. And then you're spending another 5 to 10,000, whatever that person wants to spend. So it's trying to eliminate that. I know the upfront cost of having a dyno that's $650 and plus your travel time is a little much, but these things are lasting forever. I mean, Eric said that Matisse's motors and all these ones that are running, they are not getting rebuilt. They're not getting rerun like we do on 2300s. So it's a longevity motor. These things will last forever. They're still going to be within the parameters.
Brandon, you have time in SCCA with spec engines. So in a class that has a spec engine, how many engine builders are, say, for one spec
so
class?
in their classes, it's one. You only have one engine builder.
One. So doesn't matter where you're at in the United States, you have to ship your engine to that one engine builder. And they dyno it?
Yep, it's dynoed within 3 horsepower.
So you're sealed, dynoed, and built at one facility. So, I mean, maybe we shouldn't even have to look at shipping cost across the United States. I mean, different dynos. I mean, maybe we should look at shipping costs, try to find a central place to do it. I mean, if one racing organization, not saying SCCA is perfect. I'm not saying what they do is the best, but they've been running sealed engines. They've been running these engines with ECUs for a very long time. So obviously what they're doing is good. And it's not like you show up to a SCC race, you don't get tow money, you don't get prize money, you get a trophy if you're lucky. And that's out of like 40 cars. So if you get a trophy, you're really lucky. So
yeah,
I mean, maybe we don't need to spend that much time on this whole dyno, looking for dyno guys, because I mean, if a racing organization can do it, boat racers can do it.
I would be all for doing them all at Hootie's place. It's middle of the country. We shipped our GP engine there for $400 to get it there, and then $400 back. A small little Honda crate probably be like $200. So okay, now your dyno cost is up to that $1,000, but now you know every motor's coming from the same facility besides Canada. So you have those choices because they're going to keep their dyno. That's HRL's. Now APBA could have one. We're trying to eliminate costs, but it probably is. It makes sense maybe to do one. And again, it just eases everyone's mind. And I hate that thought of, is that guy making more horsepower than me? I don't know.
I mean, what class in APBA can you say this class, all their engines are within a few horsepower of each other?
Oh, and the other thing with this, we've had many conversations with Eric that you do need to do a little tune into each engine because of camshaft wear, stuff like that. There's a correction the fuel curve and timing curve of every engine stays the same. So your map is all the same. Your curve of the motor is the same, but the air fuel needs a little tweak because of just using used parts, stuff like that. So you're taking, it's called an injector percentage, I believe. I lost my train of thought there. And just minor things. So once your motor's done, you lock it in. That's not saying that ECU won't run on your next motor. It's just saying it's perfect for that motor. There's conversations trying to figure out how to fix that. But that's another reason you want to go to the dyno. Just make sure everything's right. Everything's perfect. And again, it's still within that range. You're still comparing your mat, your curve. You're not just saying, all right, peak horsepower is here. But on this motor, it's at 7,000. This motor, it's at 5,000. It's a curve you're comparing.
I mean, the dyno, the sealed engine in dyno eliminates a lot of factors. Eliminates costs being ran up tremendously. Tries to eliminate the cheating. I mean, I know people are human and people will do stupid things, but it takes a big problem out of the equation with cheating. Hopefully, it's all around the better idea. I mean, I would be afraid of opening it up not being sealed. And then next thing you know, 3 years down the road, we're at the same point we are with the Ford, where engine builders are charging $13,000.
And maybe that's something guys need to know and in the comments don't understand, is that you're not rebuilding these things every year like you do the Fords, according to Eric. No. And I mean, granted, we might get in the APBA and some guys might run into troubles, but this guy's been doing this for a long time with drag racing and has built a nice package. That's why he's spending the extra money up front on the Y-scope pistons and the valves and like putting good stuff in there instead of running stock, so it lasts for a long time. Matisse's motor has not been rerun in 4 years, and he was one of the fastest in Bahorma, right? In Tonawanda, he won. So they're resilient. And that being said, one more point on that, and there's nobody. If anybody wants to jump on, I think Matisse already messaged me. He's in, but he was just listening. Unless he wants to get in, he can text me. But and then Sherry, I think she was just trying to watch because she was on earlier when we had it. So if anybody wants to, especially maybe the Ford guys, we obviously don't want to have this flooded with Honda opinions. Ford guys, IRC members, tech committee members, like, let's get your opinions, because I think that's what's good about this. We're kind of hashing out some of the questions. But anyway, our motor in the SCCA Formula Enterprise, we went 86 races, which is like 120 minutes of track time every weekend. We switched it out for a brand new one. We went slower. So we put that old ragged out thing back in and went out and finished like third in the runoffs. So these newer motors are built to just haul ass.
John Shaw just said, we are rebuilding our Ford in the 92 every year. Just saying.
Okay. I assume he meant to say are, not are not. Yeah. And again, this is so now out.
No, he said we are.
So here again, Al does it himself. Al's a master with his engine, has built a great program. There's guys that can't do that themselves, so now they're getting charged whatever people do. I would say we can, but obviously we can't get Joint 300 to work. That's the whole reason we're going Honda, folks, is because we can't get it to run.
Yeah, we can't build.
It's all self-serving.
So does anyone?
He meant to say we are not. I figured that's what he meant. But
you're not. Does anyone want to jump on here and talk to us? I mean, we'd like to hear opinions, thoughts, suggestions. We would like suggestions. We would really like suggestions on what you think. You know, if you like the Honda, what would you like to see maybe we could do with our rule proposal? I mean, it's not, I mean, we're trying to do this as a whole. We don't want to slide anything through the back door like a lot of rule proposals have happened in the past. And next thing you know, you're blindsided and you're like, oh my God. I mean, we're not trying to blindside anyone. We're trying to be pretty upfront about it. The great thing about this is it's an engine option. You still run your Ford. Your Ford is, if you're on top of your game, you're still going to be on top of the game, because we have proven in HRL that Fords win half the time, Hondas win half the time. And I can tell you, no one was slacking on either side, Honda or Ford, because they're top teams, and it's teams that know their stuff. I know Timmy Collins, the inboard racing chairman, he told me last year what he wanted to see out of the Honda is a good team. He didn't want a middle of the pack boat to put a Honda in and see that. He wanted a good team who knows what they're doing, and I think we've seen that. We seen Dan Canfouche, Don Less, Eddie Canfouche put in a Honda in their boat, and they went out there and they won half the season. Grant Liddycoat, they put a brand new boat in, together, put a Ford in it. He went and won half the season, and it came down to the last race between the Ford and the Honda. You don't get that in a lot of classes.
Heck, someone said in the rules you can still run the 2000. Yeah,
you can still run the 2000. If you do not like the Honda and you're running out of Ford parts, just go to the 2000.
Maybe we'll add some high-powered camshafts to that. Patch it up.
Yeah, there we go. No,
anyway, Matisse said he'll jump in and give us his opinion on the Honda. Again, folks, if you want to go to the other side of it, the Ford side, hop in here too. We don't want to just flood y'all with Honda stuff. What's up, Matisse?
How we doing, man?
How's it going?
He was thinking, should I speak French or English?
Looks like he's
you
at
can
the
speak
shop.
French. I'd like to see that.
Oh, you don't hear that.
J'ai tous Honda. I think that means I'm an easy Honda. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's do it like this.
Yep.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I kind of missed a couple of points you guys brought, but I was reading the comments, so I just wanted to add my little grain of salt to the conversation. So I know you guys were talking about the ECU and why do we have to go on dyno if the ECU is sealed and whatnot. But like I'm working on the boat right now, as you guys can see. I'm with my crew chief right now, and what he was telling me is that if the dyno is there because you have to know how much horsepower the motor will produce, and the ECU, what it does is just like it'll adjust. Like if let's say your motor is 185 HP, you're gonna go to your ECU with your computer, and you're just gonna say, okay, the motor is 185 HP, but we want you to get to 180 HP. So this is just like a program thing, just to make sure you're not like going over 180 HP like every other engine on the. As I don't know if it's unclear in English, but.
So let me ask you this: do you understand? How old are you? You're 21. Do you understand how the ECU works?
Do not.
So you understand what it does with the you understand what it does with an engine, and
I mean,
but you know what it does with the engine and all that.
It's the program. It's just to.
So do you know how to plug it? You know how to plug it. You know how to do you know how to plug a computer in the ECU?
Wire. So yeah.
I'm just asking. It's not a trick question. Not a trick question.
Yeah. I mean, when
all right,
we get the motor
answer me this.
Every race weekend, after every race weekend, we get it out of the boat, and I mean it's 4 wires just to plug and unplug. When it's already like everything is plugged at the right place on the engine and everything.
Okay, well, this is the point I'm trying to get at. If I hand you a carburetor, do you know how it works and if you could take it apart and put it back together?
No. No, I do not.
No. See, that's another point that, you know, there's a lot of older guys in hydroplane racing who love their carburetors because that's what they grew up with. That's what they know. You don't have cars with carburetors anymore. You don't have much of anything with carburetors anymore. Even dirt bikes don't have carburetors anymore. They're all fuel injected. So young kids coming in these days, they don't want to learn about carburetors. They're going to want to, they know plug and play. You take a computer, you plug it in. Is everything going right? It's going good. You close your laptop, put your cowling on, and go race. It's the new age. It's
way less. How come I going to like it's less you with the ECU compared to like a carburetor, you have less work to do on it. You don't have to play with it for 100 hours and just like trying to find the right setup with the. It's just the ECU. It's all right there. You type in there, and then you got it. And I mean, it's sealed. So if you want to get more than let's say, I think it's locked at 8200, 8500. It's locked at 8500. Even if you want to play with it and get it higher, you can because there's a password and it's sealed. The only thing you can go in there to check is like having a dashboard, and it says, okay, well your TPS is working. Your intake air temperature. It's just like it gives you information about the motor. And if you want to make sure every, let's say, if you want to make sure every sensor works, you click on one button and it just makes a sound tick 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 tick. You know it works. So you don't have to play with anything to like get your voltmeter out and just try to check every wire just to see if it works. You press on one button and you know it doesn't work. So, I mean, This is why the ECU is great in my opinion, and you don't have to like try to play with it as much as a carb. You don't have to modify it or jet it or anything.
Yeah, I agree, and we've mentioned it on the podcast, and we definitely got to thank you for being the test dummy to make sure the ECU can get wet and still work.
Yeah, I mean, it went underwater twice, and it's put it in the right for like a week, and it's working just perfect. So
nice.
That's not big of an issue if you take care of it.
Right. Oh, and your boss there, Patrick, he commented, said it's locked at 8250. So driver must like a little bit more RPM.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think your points are valid. I mean, go ahead.
Did you run a Ford your first year, or were you Honda right from the get-go?
2019, I was racing a Ford, and then in 2021, I got the first Honda.
And I would say,
honestly, we went
you
everything with that
Honda.
Honda. And I can tell you, once you know how it works, it's really not that complicated. You just got to plug and play. You change your gears, you change your propeller, and everything is pretty much simple if you're installed right in the boat, and everything is connected fine. And it just, you got to know how to do it at first, because it seems complicated because there's a lot of wires and everything. But once you get through it and someone shows you how it works, you're like, okay, it's not that bad. It's like, it's
right.
even more easy to set up, and it's fun to work with. It's not, you don't have to spend $3,000 a year just to get a refresh on it. My boat, we haven't done a refresh. This is going to be the first year we're going to do a refresh on it, and it went upside down twice. No, it went upside down twice, and it's still running perfectly fine. Yep. And it's just, on the long term, as you guys said, I think I've heard you a little bit earlier. It's worth it. I mean, compared to the Ford that you have to update it, but refresh it every year, and just do so much work on it just to make sure that you're running with the front runner.
Yeah.
And I just go back to our race in Tonawanda. Our race in Tonawanda, that was by far one of my funnest races I've ever had.
Ford versus Honda.
We were Ford and Honda right next to each other, 5 laps, and it was beautiful.
The Ford can still run with the Honda perfectly fine. I mean, you got Grant Liddico, John Scott, you guys that were showing it. Like, it's not that huge of a gap. I mean, it's pretty raceable.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like we said earlier, we go back and look through heats all year. It paints a pretty clear picture that there were Fords winning and Hondas winning, and it was pretty much back and forth all season.
Totally agree.
I mean, without a couple penalties and maybe a little bit of misfortune in a heat, like Grant Liddico very easily could have won that championship.
A matter of just one heat that could have changed everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what you're looking for in a championship race in a class. Especially a stock class.
Pretty much what I wanted to add, like I said, I know it's pretty expensive from the beginning, but if you look at the long term, like, let's just say, I think I talked about it on the last podcast that I was in, but if you want to get a propeller, like a brand new one, it will be like what?
2,000
US crown. And you want to get a 10 set of gears, you're going to have it for 1,500. 10 set of gears, and you can have 3 propellers, and you'll be fine with you can find a setup and be middle of the pack to front runner. So it's like the expensive just with propellers and gearing. So I think on the long term, it'll be worth it for everyone.
Yep, exactly. We'll definitely appreciate you coming on and giving your insight on it. And look forward to seeing you out there next year.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, dude.
All right. Do we have any APBA members who have any concerns, opinions, or suggestions with this whole situation? Would love you guys to jump on. I mean, you could just
so the one suggestion I think APBA is resistant on is the dyno thing. Obviously, maybe there is a way we can come up with a set of rules that are very inspectable. Obviously, I think Kip was the one that said it. Like, obviously, Eric's very knowledgeable and said there is ways you can play in an engine. That's why they went with the sealed route. But maybe he could help us write a set of rules that says, like, you can't do this, you can't do that, and maybe it's easily inspectable. That's the thing, is just make it easily inspectable, because the worry of what people can do. There's a lot of people out there that are smart, that work on motors every day, and our inspectors don't. Like, they don't know how to catch that stuff sometimes. But I guess that's the same as every class. We're just trying to, our ideal is to make this as stock can be and moving forward. What else we got in here?
I think Matisse's team is like a perfect example of like the potential that it has outside of just being a better option moving forward, like bringing young people into the class. Like you see them all year. They're all it's those guys working on boat. And yeah, they have some help from Patrick and guys on that team, but every time I'm over there, it's just those guys on the boat.
And that's the thing I was thinking today. Obviously, the Mazda could come in future down the road, might be the best thing ever. But right now, the Honda's cool, even though it's a 20-year-old engine. Everyone loves Hondas. They love these VTEC things, man. You take that thing to a car show, they're going to be like, damn, is that a Honda? They don't care that it's 20 years old. They still got one in their little rice burner going yip, yip, yip down the road. Like, it's relatable.
Jim Wilson commented that there's plenty of sources for the Ford, have not had any problems finding parts. He likes the idea of the sealed engine, and it's the expense switching will hurt a lot of racers. Right now we have the way we're proposing it, the cost of the Honda with your startup cost is cheaper than going to an engine builder saying, let me buy a 2300.
I think it was for people that already have a Ford.
Right. And I think that's where the misinformation, and I would suggest to anyone that's understanding, and I know we talked about the big courses might be different, but most of our courses are small anymore. And obviously go watch Decatur. I think there's a live stream link, or we could maybe find the video and post it.
Yeah.
Go back and watch some of these HRL races, because I feel like you don't see how close the 2300s are to the Hondas. Obviously, are the Hondas going to keep getting faster as they're in better boats? Yeah, sure. That's how advancements go. But today, if you were to put them together in, say, Mott Lake, they're not going to be much different. If Eddie showed up to Caesars Creek with this Honda powered Ford, I guarantee you still would outrun him in Barker's boat. I think he had a better shot in the new boat than he did in that boat.
Yeah, and the Honda has been around since 2019, so it's not like this is the first year where next year all of a sudden they're going to get faster. They've been around for 4 or 5 years. They've been running, and they have not been dominating. The Ford has still been consistently winning. And like Jim, I know you just jumped on, but we're not saying eliminate the Ford. We're just trying to allow the class have another option, an engine option. And this is by far the closest comparison in speed with an engine being brought into a class than APBA has ever had. You can look all across the board. Every engine in the past that has been brought in has totally dominated the previous engine and have just eliminated the previous engine. So, this is something that really strongly needs to be considered and take and look at. So that's why we want ideas. We want suggestions. If you think something's an issue,
and
then help
like
us.
You said, with the plenty of sources and no problems with parts, if we can get parts for Fords, I mean, please share.
Share where you're getting your parts from. If you're getting camshafts, share where you're getting camshafts. If you got a stockpile of Esslinger heads, share it.
We have a Honda, but we still have Fords. And
up in the comments, Woody Plescott commented a while back and said he ran this Beauport all year because he wanted to just get seat time. He didn't want to use the aluminum head because he didn't want to have to rebuild it at the end of the year. So he said that they went testing and they ran the Esslinger head, and it's a big difference to him. This is a rookie's thing. So on the water, there's a weight difference too. Even if they flow the same and make the same horsepower, there's that weight difference up high. The CG changes.
Jeff Bernard just said if he'd be switching to the Honda if it was passed, and that would open up 2 aluminum heads for sale.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. It's going to start hearing that it's selling, and all these people can buy up all the Fords they want, and you're going to have a stockpile. You can run them for 10 years. It's not like if you are good out there going second, third place and competitive, you keep working on it, you're going to wind up being up there with the Hondas. That's the cool thing about it. And I go back to the mistake I feel like we made as APBA and the HRL. Going to the Esslinger head was a mistake. Obviously, it patched the problem for this many years. It's been a long time that we've been able to do it. But the Duratec was a good option. And Conrad's out there running them, and they're good. They're reliable from what I hear, and cheap. But you know why it did not ever gain legs? Because it's not faster. You cannot bring a motor in that is ECU that's slower. Nobody will ever switch to it. So yes, if it's a touch faster, that's what it should be. But right now, like you said, we've said it a million times. It's as close as you can get. And I know we got brought up prior to this was maybe you can go to a different. You can go to roller rockers and stuff like that, but they're all out of stock too. And why would we want to make the Ford more horsepower when they're already so close?
Jim Wilson, you said you have no problem finding the heads. Can you get the aluminum head? Because he says he can get cams from Walsh and Esslinger both.
No, Esslinger's out of it. No, I'll do my research.
Well, and then he says he wants. And then he wants to say open it up to the 4 plug heads, which 4 plug heads were outlawed a while ago for a certain reason. But that's just keeping a 50-year-old engine in the class. I mean,
that's not.
We're not saying eliminate the Ford. If you can find parts out for them, keep running the Ford.
You're not going to get outperformed.
We're just trying to bring in an option that is identical in speed to the Ford. I mean, if you look at put 2 boats out there, and if you could put earmuffs on and not hear anything, and they run side by side without looking at which side the exhaust is coming out of, you would not be able to tell me which one's a Ford or which one's a Honda. They are dead even.
And then, I mean, back to that point of I've seen it a few times from some of the older racers, and we did this with the 305, 350. Oh, I'm gonna just park my boat if you do this. Okay, like that's your choice you can make as an owner. I think you're making the wrong choice because I think it's obviously a similar motor. You're not going to change your position any just because your competitor went to a Honda. But you're already losing boats. Unfortunately, the East Coast is very affected by what HRL does. We saw it with the 305 and 350. It's happening again in 2300. As more of these guys transition to the Honda, which they are this winter, I guarantee there's going to be at least 6 of them that go to a Honda. They're no longer going to support APBA races because they can't race 2.5 stock. Why would they want to run 2.5 mod when if an actual one shows up, they have 30 mile an hour faster than them? It's not right. This is still a 2.5 stock class. So, I mean, just in Caesars Creek alone, if Hondas were allowed, you would have had Grant Hearn, you would have had the 2, you would have had the 500 go there, and some others. So now once other people transition to them, these races like back on the Michigan races for sure. And Region 6, I think, is going to be hurt the worst. Yes, you have your nucleus of 6 boats right now, but you could be up in eliminations if you allow the Honda. I don't know how you can turn away boat count because you're worried about what's in your garage.
Well, and when we have to complain about boat count, or not complain, but bring up boat count at every race and every meeting and every anything, like, why would we do something that's 100% going to affect boat count?
Right.
And like, I don't know if you've said this, Brandon, when a rule proposal is set to be put in, but Jeff Bernard did comment earlier that as of right now, there is not one in to APBA other than the experimental trial.
Hold on. Joe Kreitzer, he's to your comment about boats coming to Region 6, he said they don't support them now. Last year at Mott Lake, you had Grant Hearn. He was not there this year because he's a Honda. At Caesars Creek, you had Eddie Canfouche that was there to test their new boat. They wouldn't have been there.
They won't be there next year
if they didn't have that boat. They won't be there next year because they'll have Hondas. The S35 will have a Honda in it. So you're talking about a number of boats. So that right there, you're.
And I mean, that's what I'm saying. This Michigan, the Ohio races are great places for these guys from Canada to travel to. And I mean, you can throw us in the mix because if we will switch to a Honda for HRL. So if it's not approved, are we going to be at those? You're not going to wind up supporting your own region because we're focused on that. And is that right? Is that wrong? That's anyone's opinion. You could call us wrong all you want. But
racing's racing.
He did touch on a point that a lot of 305 guys quit, and I will say that's because there was a huge difference in speed. There was 50 horsepower.
Yeah. Speed and horsepower.
Yeah. And I mean, remember back then we were talking, oh, these 350s are going to kill people. They're going to do this. They're going to break the boats. They're going to destroy everything. That is the best racing in the world right now, is 350 racing. So sometimes making change to get things closer helps the sport.
But what I think is, like, I'm not trying to pick on Joe Kreitzer, but I think what he's failing to realize is how close the Ford and Honda are. I mean, go watch any of the HRL live stream videos of the Fords and the Hondas. We just went through the statistics at the beginning of the episode. 50% of the time the Ford won, 50% of the time the Honda won. And yes, that is top Fords and top Hondas. And it did take the Honda, and I'll say it again, I've said it many a time so far. The Honda is great because it can take a middle of the pack boat and put it in the top three any given heat. You can't take, I mean, it's proven. If you're in the middle of the pack with a Ford, you're middle of the pack.
You can't do that without spending more money than it's going to cost for the Honda.
Without going and buying a $1,300 carburetor or go and buying a $2,000 DeWalt prop. I mean, the Honda, you have a gearbox. You can go spend $90 on a set of gears versus $2,000 on a brand new DeWalt prop.
Like I said,
you find a prop you like and then just switch gears around with that.
And maybe we should do for some of these guys that are a little worried about the speed difference. Maybe we should do some things on Chasin Tails, and we'll get some videos up of these races. Because I mean, Paul Barber just mentioned Edgewood. That was not a huge course, but it was wide turns. So that was a course for the Honda. And the Honda won the 2.5 stock championship, lost there. And so I think Grant was there too, and John beat them all there. Obviously, maybe if it was the end of the season, they're a little bit better. Maybe it wouldn't have been the same. Decatur, same thing. Grant got beat by a 2.5 stock, a 2300 Ford. So they're so comparable. I mean, that's what I mean is the most frustrating is the lack of no one watching that stuff. It seems obviously the rule stuff, do we want to inspect it? Do we want it sealed? Like that's stuff we got to hash out with the IRC and see what we can get through. Obviously you guys know our opinions, but if we can't get it passed as a sealed engine, then obviously make it unsealed. If you want to go race our HRL, you have to have a sealed engine. And the way we would build the rules if Eric would be willing to help us, they're going to make the same horsepower as long as you're not cheating. I mean, cheaters are going to cheat no matter what they do. So we can't be worried about that to the hill.
I mean, what we're trying to do with the sealed engine is not allow costs to get sky high with like it did with the Ford. I know you have your backyard engine builders who do their own, saying it's not expensive. Well, I'm speaking for 3/4 of the guys who actually go to an engine builder and are spending an arm and a leg for a 50-year-old engine, carbureted engine at that. I've never bought a car with a carburetor.
Hey, I did. I was just, while we were on this podcast, I looked it up, and the last carbureted automobile engine was built in 1991. So I wasn't even alive yet. 32 years old.
Yeah.
Eric Lacoste just commented, rules are going to be out this week or so.
Yeah, so if you weren't on earlier, HRL's opening up their rules. You can anybody can build them within a spec, and then you take them to the dyno and be sealed. They're not getting away from the dyno sealed thing, which is okay. If APBA can't do it that way, we'll figure it out.
So this whole podcast was trying to bring everyone together and let everyone know what we are trying to do. We do plan on submitting a rule proposal, but first we will send it to the IRC and Tech Committee
regardless
simultaneously. But we wanted to get it in Tech Committee's hands. We want to hear feedback. We want to work with them to see what we need to change in our rule proposal to help it move forward. And then we want to also give it to the IRC at the same time, because this is a big deal and we know they have a lot to discuss and we want to give them ample time. So we're going to get it to them as soon as possible, because we want this to move forward. We're not trying to eliminate the Ford. That's the last thing we want to do is have someone have an investment that just goes to trash. We don't want that. we're bringing it forward because we have seen the proof from HRL that this engine is on par with the Ford, so they can coexist, and you can still go beat a Honda with a Ford, and a Honda can go beat a Ford be a Ford. I mean, it's the most even thing ever. Please, if you have not watched any 2.5 stock or F class or S class HRL races from this past summer, please go on their Facebook group and just go watch or their live stream, their YouTube live stream page. Go watch some videos. That you'll be surprised. You will be surprised how even they are. We're not trying to backdoor this to put a Honda in our boat to go kick everyone's ass in APBA, because that's not going to happen. Will it eliminate our issues? Yeah, we have issues. We don't like.
We
the
finally
Ford.
figured them out at the end of the year. Took us 13
Figured it out
races.
at the end of the year.
Maybe we're not
13
that
races.
smart. Even though Dad was around when this 2300 came in and they were $500. It was an easy. He said it was an easier transition to get people to change from the 2000 2300 back then, from his remembrance. Obviously, Joe Kreitzer was around then too. Maybe he could enlighten us on how that transition went, because that was a long time ago. But because they were so cheap, now they're still expensive, but it's not the engine that's expensive. It's the accessories. Once you have the accessories, you're good to go. These gearboxes aren't going to fail. You're going to live forever. You can change shafts in them, stuff like that.
Like Jeff Bernard, I mean, I did text Marty Hack earlier this week. I just don't know. Maybe he didn't know it was me. I never got a response. So I don't know. Maybe I can get with you and you can reach out to him and talk to him about this,
I think
I'll try to give him a call. But that would be my first option to have on the West Coast, is Marty Hack. He's well known, he's trusted, and all around great guy. So if we could get him on board to do this whole sealed thing, I think that would be.
And I think with seeing a lot of the chat tonight, that it was the thing with the sealed motors is they're afraid you can't touch them. I think it's still a discrepancy thing, and it can be, maybe we write it into the rules, referee, inspector decision. Like if you have to pull a head off at a race, which you're probably not going to from what we've seen in HRL, but if you do, it's not like you can't run. You're going to get resealed, or if you blow over and, hey, I bent a couple of valves, I need to replace them, I'm going to do it myself, but I don't have time to go back to the dyno. Okay, you're resealed, get a re-dynoed at the end of the year or something like that. There's provisions you can put in that can eliminate the constant going back to the dyno. And the valve covers, right now, the valve covers are not sealed. So you still have to set your valve adjustment, your valve lash.
Jeff. Go ahead, Austin.
Or just that I'll call him tomorrow and just need someone on the East. Think Hooties would be.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think if you just limit it to two, Hooties, again, been in the sport forever. He's got time, except for when he's building my GP motors. And then I don't know if we need one in the East because we have Canada. I mean, it's not that hard to go to Valleyfield to get your motor dynoed. No. So,
and Brandon's already talked to Hootie, and that's where we got our baseline prices on rebuilding and all that. So I'm pretty sure Hootie would be on board for the whole dyno sealed thing.
And Kip said I should have messaged Marty, because he didn't answer because it was you. And Joe also said that it was an easy transition from 2000 to 2300. So it's just times. I mean, I get it. Like, everyone's worried because you don't have extra money in the sport. It's a hobby. But longevity wise is why this is getting brought up. And it's getting brought up because all the testing is done. I mean, if we wanted to bring in another motor, it's 2-3 years down the road. And who's going to test it in a competitive boat? That's the other problem. If you want to bring in this Mazda, you got to put it in someone's like ours, Grant's old boat, John Shaw's, Al Thompson's boat, someone that's competitive to actually get some true data. Where, like, me, in my mind, I was against the Honda for a little bit last year. But then seeing
Me too.
Eddie go from the Ford to the Honda, and not really that big of a advancement. Was he a little more? I think he was more consistent than anything. But it wasn't like, holy shit, he's like way fast. I mean, he was way fast at the end of the year before.
I was against the Honda when Jacob went right around me.
But I'm saying, I told Dad this week.
I ran right with him.
Yep. Yeah, Sorrell, you ran with him because you actually had balls then.
Yeah, he wasn't scared
from a flip that you weren't even involved in.
on his throttle stick.
Oh yeah, just wide open. We know how to make your throttle stick. Just leave the idle screw in there.
If this passes, I'm sure my uncle could bang out enough gearboxes.
Yeah, we have 2. We built them within a week. Bunch of gearbox shafts. We did a bunch of extras. We just tried to keep it as simple as possible. The ones they're doing at Precision EFI are nice too. They took our gearbox and made the same thing. So, little different. We tried to keep it simple to keep the cost down. Ours will unbolt with 4 bolts. You can change your gears on a bench. Did some different coupling styles. Took some GP technology, put into that stuff. But yeah, we can keep making. That was a comment that was brought up by Greg Barker in the email that like it's a single source. What if they go out of business and this, that, and other? And I understand that. Obviously, we've been building them for 20 years. There's also other sources now, and they're a simple gearbox. Like you can take it to any machine shop and they can replicate it. You pay more because it's not a racer doing it because they love the sport, probably, but it's not like you're screwed if we decide to retire, which George will never retire. And we did put less bolts in it for Paul Barber. That was the only request.
And Eddie had a good point. He said the Honda wasn't the only thing that they changed in their boat from last year to this year. Hardware and a serious diet.
Yeah, that bike still looked like a coat rack last time he was on.
I think he might have been talking about.
So the Honda's on a sealed diet and Eddie's on a salad diet.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in closing. I feel like if we just keep talking, we're just going to keep talking in circles, like trying to repair the 2300.
Yeah. I mean, look, I do understand where the Ford guys come from because I've said it many a time so far. History in APBA has proved when we bring in an engine that the existing engine that has been in the class becomes obsolete. I don't think that's going to happen with the Ford. I think if you're fast with the Ford and you can still get parts, you're still gonna run with the Hondas until you want to make that switch because you're tired of looking for parts.
I would have loved to see, and it would have been.
I understand.
It would have been a different conversation, and I don't think anybody would have went. But I would have loved to see one of the fast Hondas go down to Lakeland and see how close they could get to John's record, because I bet they're way off. That boat is mint on a nice course. I mean, the Hondas are supposed to be a little faster on big course, but that boat was running mint. And I mean, I don't think if you brought in APBA Hondas next year, I don't think anybody's touching a record. And I know that's a worry to just a handful of people.
I mean, look at put it this way. Look what the aluminum head did to the 2.5 stock class.
Separated it.
Until they came up with this bow port, you couldn't run that cast iron head in.
It eliminated it. Yep.
Eliminated. So you had to go spend thousands of dollars on the aluminum head.
Right. Yeah, I think it was like $3,200 or something like that.
Yeah. So I'd still be pissed off about the aluminum head.
Yeah.
But I think I really think HRL hit it on the head with this one, and I think they brought in something that did not eliminate 90% of their boats, because when the Honda came in, it didn't go dominate. It didn't dominate this year.
Yeah.
It was the championship came down to the last race of the season. You wouldn't get that in any other class. What 305 has went and beat a 350? What 3KC and 1 liter mod has went and beat a two stroke? If the 2-stroke didn't break down, as long as 2-stroke didn't break down, because they broke down a lot when they came out. Didn't happen. Did a 2000 go beat a 2.5 when 2.5 was brought in? No, actually, I'm lying. I wasn't even alive when they were brought in. I can't tell you, but I guarantee it didn't happen.
Gil asked about, I guess, Tommy Shannon blew a motor in Bournemouth. He was wondering what the outcome was. I don't know if Eric can post that reply in the comments to him. But again, outcome is if you blow a Ford and you have to rebuild it, it's cheaper to build a new Honda than it is a Ford for the base motor. Because you already have the accessories. Just throw a new motor together. I mean, I think he broke pistons this year, right? Did it tear up the head and your head's destroyed? You ain't got another one. Like that's the worry as we keep going. Like, just
I think the run in like a pack on, he had to go get
okay.
a new engine. I could be wrong.
Obviously, it was a good one, and
Yeah.
I think Eric said it overheated.
But then you can still pull over your ECU,
Yep.
throw it on the other engine. Oh, that's just like you would with a Ford. You're still spending the $10K for the spare Ford on the front of your trailer.
100%.
But now you're going a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're gonna. Yeah, we got startup cost, we have long block costs, and all that. When you break stuff, yeah, it's going to get into different categories of what it costs. I mean, it's not going to be any more than what a long block costs. I can tell you that. It's going to be cheaper. It could be $50 or it could be $1,000 depending on what you break. But right now, dollar for dollar, the Honda's the cheaper route to go if you were getting into the class. There's already a couple 2.5 guys from APBA on the East Coast that want to go to the Honda if it gets approved. Because they're tired of carburetors. They're tired of looking for parts. They don't have aluminum heads. And one guy, he just bought a 2.5 stock, so he's trying to figure out what route to go. He doesn't want it. I don't think he wants the Ford. So,
yeah. So I'm sharing the screen of the write up we did and sent to all the owners. I know we didn't have all the emails, so if you're on this podcast and you didn't get this,
can you scroll back up, please, to the prices?
I got that in the spreadsheet.
I just want to I just want to point out it does say timing chain. I thought timing chain was 400.
Found one for 200. We're down there.
Okay, so timing chain's 200. That can be optional. That should something to be optional. I think it all depends on what engine you get, how many miles it has on it. But timing chains are you don't have to change the timing chain. You can if you want for a peace of mind, but that is something that can have a lot of wear and tear on it and still go.
Yeah, it's just a recommendation. Again, most all this is basically how they're building them in HRL. Obviously, you could try running one stock if you wanted to and see if it works. It might work. We don't know. We don't have that information. We haven't done that testing. So, but yeah, that's basically your pricing for it. We have some comments down here, some things that Eric said, like we went over earlier, that they're tuned to the max. You cannot screw with the ECU to make any more power. You'd have to change things in the engine. This was all tuned on 91 octane, so there's really no need to buy any more than that. And then we have some comments down here from Mike from SCCA that just kind of went over the ECU tampering, how it's not really a concern as the system can be well monitored. Like they have a checker that they plug into the ECU, and within 2 seconds it goes through every parameter to know nothing's changed. And he suggested, obviously, from all the spec engines they did, as long as it's tuned to the safe maximum, performance gains for manipulation are very minimum. And SCCA, these guys are so crazy that they'll have 10 throttle bodies and other sensors and change them out on a chassis dyno to get 1/10 of a horsepower. Like, that's how crazy their specs are. But obviously that's not making them win a race. So if you didn't get this, obviously send us a message with your email address. We'll send this over to you.
Yeah, we want to be very transparent with what we're trying to do. We're not trying to backdoor anything or hide anything.
Would it be possible to post that as the link?
We want everyone to be well aware of everything and
I'll post it on Facebook.
Try to be transparent. We don't want to make anyone mad. I mean, I'm sure we're making someone mad just trying to bring in a new engine, but I think that time has came and it needs to change. Another option needs to be added to the class. Bring stock back to stock, possibly.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately it.
Because there's nothing stock about it, the 2500 right now.
23.
Yeah. 20. Eddie's got.
Yes, it's 20. It is a 2500.
Eddie's dad's got the right point, man. That as soon as that thing hits with the Honda, as soon as it hits the trailer, you can tilt her up and go home because you got to pull the carburetor off or anything like that. We're just rolling.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I like that point.
Maintenance free. Well, nothing is maintenance free, but it's very, very low maintenance compared to the Ford.
Yeah, and Woody also posted that his main reason for wanting to change to the Honda next year, if it's approved, is for a more consistent engine program that's not changing every weekend with having to change jetting, stuff like that, so he can focus on learning as a driver and playing with props and boat setup and stuff like that.
Yeah, like, because it's known you have 180 horsepower. You know you have a good engine. If something's wrong, you plug in your computer, see if there's a sensor default, whatnot, but you know you have an engine that has good horsepower.
Yeah.
Just like the next Honda. Unlike these Fords, you have no clue. No clue.
Probably won't throw a follower in.
Right. So Dad just texted me. He's like, "Yeah, we finally got fast and then broke a rocker arm."
Oh, come on. Let's hear it, Kyle. Let's hear it.
What'd that sound like?
Asterisks. It sounded like an asterisk.
Well, the first one he did in Edgewood, he said it sounded like somebody stuck something in a fan.
Yeah. I told Chris Oliver it sounded like somebody stuck a pencil in a fan.
Hey, he
fired it up. It sounded exactly like that.
He said he popped what he thinks he saw at Caesar's Creek. He's like, I think I popped the follower, so they got it back on the trailer. He gets up on the boat. He's like, so should I start it up? We're like, no.
And that was another point Eric commented, and we talked about it earlier and messaging that it wasn't the Honda with the most horsepower that won the championship. So, but it just shows that a 4 horsepower spread isn't really nothing. Boat setup makes up for that.
No. Yep.
And then, like, do you even bring into the equation, especially in APBA, with not doing assigned lanes? Like, that makes that even more interesting.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, how to?
Like, I don't know if the Hondas can really go and park like that.
Yeah, I have no clue. I
don't know if
I would assume really. They could, but
I mean, Hearn had
and then Lake Apacon, I think, like on Saturday, Hearn got beat by Al's boat, and then on Sunday he parked and got the inside and was able to beat Al's boat. I think he let him on the start, but so yeah. One thing I gotta say is, like, I'm proud of our racing community. This is one of the highest live stream amounts we've had, and I feel like this has been way more beneficial than having a IRC closed door meeting or even a Zoom meeting with a ton of people talking at once, talking over, and then all of a sudden you got people arguing with each other. I mean, maybe sometimes we're a little bullheaded, but nobody can speak back to us except for in that chat. So I really think this has been a positive thing. Where it goes from here, we don't know. We do not control that.
Well, I think our next step is to get it to the tech committee and the IRC. You know, those guys are put in place for a reason, and they're gonna pick apart the proposal, see what's wrong with it, and hopefully give us ample time, give it back to us with ample time to try to correct what we need to in that rule proposal to try to bring it to the table at the national meeting in January to try to get passed.
And as we talk about this, I know I just got mine today for Region 6, but we have region votes going out for your racing commissioners.
Yes, so get out there and vote for your IRC.
Vote.
If you're an APBA member, it doesn't matter if you're crew, wife, whatever. If you're an APBA member, go vote for the person you think it would be best to represent your region and your
do they let you do a write-in? Anybody that wants to vote yes to the Honda, just let me know so I can write you in. But yeah, another point on these Hondas, obviously nobody knows if you can run them stock. Eric doesn't believe you can. I've got to go with his opinion because he's done a lot with these in automotive world. But our 60,000 mile Honda K20A that we have in our shop leaks 2%. Try to find a 2300 that does that. Built, custom built, like. So it's just a lot of different things, new technology, stuff like that. I think one other point that Timmy Collins brought up was that if we have different rules with APBA and HRL, you can't go run HRL if our rules are different. Obviously, those of us that want to run both, if APBA says, hey, we're not doing sealed engines, well, okay, we have to go get ours sealed in Canada or wherever. They're looking for sources as well. That's another point of breaking news. Don't be calling HRL tomorrow. I told them that you ain't allowed to do that since they were letting me say that, but they're going to open it up and they're looking for a source in APBA. So it could work together. That now Marty Hack is a dyno person and Marty Wolf is a dyno person. And I don't really think we need one here in the Northeast with having those guys in Canada. But if we felt the need to have one, I'm sure the guys at Jessel would do it or something like that. Jimmy Stewart maybe could let us know. But they're already looking for this option. So we'll kind of just work together, I think, seamlessly. Again, we saw it last year with APBA, GPA, and HRL working together, how much that helped the sport.
Yeah.
Stop the division. We're all trying to do the same thing. Race our boats and promote our race boats. And sign boobies.
Kyle Detweiler asked, can we have an HRL best hair trophy? Just saying. Might have to become a Chasin Tails one.
And Jason Alaskan, hopefully I always butcher names, so sorry about that too.
Yeah, that sounds
he
good.
came into hydroplane racing not knowing anything about it other than I knew I loved it. If the Honda engine would have been there, it would have made it easier and he probably would have been competitive sooner.
Here's another
new blood,
thing.
Right? We can't, it's hard to keep thinking about us old blood. Obviously we're 4 generations into it.
You know, I'm not trying to steal boats from other classes, but if you're or someone you know is running a 1 liter mod and is middle of the pack, tell them to take a serious look at this Honda. They already have a gearbox that could work. They're already light enough, most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you almost found that.
They could put in a Honda and come run 2.5 stock and probably run pretty competitive more than they would in a 1 liter mod. Not trying to steal from 1 liter mod class though.
Well, and there's some that are just sitting. Like you got the Mowers boat just sitting. That's a great price. That maybe if a Honda could go in it and you run 2.5 stock, I mean, it's not even just about the ones that are running. There are people that love them 2 strokes. They're never going to get away from them, and that's fine. That's good. Hopefully that class can grow back to what it was back with the for sale boats and when it was very strong. But there's a lot of boats sitting out there that could. This definitely would probably help them because they're turning more RPMs, which is going to help that low bow rise, stuff like that. I'm no boat expert, but I'm assuming.
So one thing I've been seeing, I believe it started with Jamie McClure, and Jeff just commented, all for it with Ray doing the experimental part and putting the rule package together. Need a top tier team to get the LS figured out.
Yeah, that's the LS engine for the 350s.
Hey, this next thing. I'm all for anything ECU, anything this day and age.
Sounds like we have another episode.
Hey, obviously I feel like this is very productive. So if y'all got rule proposals, maybe run them through Chasin Tails first. We'll hash them out. At least get them heard.
It's all about spreading the word. It's all about putting information out there for people to obtain. Because I know it's hard for people in the APBA world to understand what's going on in certain parts of the country and what people's wants and needs are. So, you know, if there's something you want us to talk about on the podcast, we're more than happy to do it. It's all about information and providing that information and talking and being constructive. And that's what we're trying to do with this Honda. I mean, yeah, we were against it about 6 months ago. We were against the Honda.
Yeah, don't go back and watch that Cambridge after Cambridge episode.
Yeah. Oh man,
you know how many emails HRL got after that race?
I think that's when the chicken started.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Got yelled at the first HRL race, and he wasn't even there.
Yeah, that's impressive.
But yeah, I mean, it's all about getting information out there. You know.
Yeah, like
if we're wrong, the IRC will tell us we're wrong.
Kyle posted about what about a new GP engine? I don't think so. I think that package has been pretty resilient, pretty competitive. Not really much you can do in them to spend extra money to go faster. It's pretty simplified.
We were trying to turn up our engines more than they could, and we figured that out. We backed it down, found a way to get a little faster. I think everyone else realized they had to get faster. They turned up their engines. Now they're going through the same hiccups that we did last year. So
they are opening. Well, I can't say it for sure, but there's proposals to open it up a little more because obviously Dart is not making the heads like they used to, stocking them. So there's a couple more options. There's definitely things in the works, but I think it's pretty solid. And some good people getting involved in the sport that are very well known, I think helps too.
I think we need to have Jamie on because now he's saying Ford for JSS.
Yo,
we just gotta
I'm
have
gonna put a
him
Honda in one.
Starts.
Get one of them IndyCar engines put in on my dad's river skiff.
Oh yeah,
Man, you got to put a LS in those skiffs because half of them are already cheating to put out enough power as an LS.
Turtles. That's all I remember from back in the day. Is just turtle. Everybody was doing turtles. I don't even know what the hell a turtle is, but everyone's like, "Hey, they're thrown out because they have a turtle."
it goes under the carburetor in the intake, and it would disperse the air and fuel the best way.
Turtle's a great word for that. Yeah, I would have said like freaking diverter, fuel diverter.
Like,
turtle.
Why was that? Yeah, but why? I don't understand why that was illegal.
Someone for sure found a turtle shell one day.
It's like, that worked on the dyno. We're going to put this little guy in
turtle.
Someone redesigned it.
That definitely came from the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Turtle.
Yeah. That was picked out of the thing in Cambridge. Someone threw it in there and like, yep, we're running.
No doubt. So, yeah, I think
Hey, guys, we are almost to our 10 o'clock
Jimmy
quota.
said don't give away his secrets. So
Jeff's calling you out.
I ain't got nothing to say, Jeff. You're 100% correct. Maybe the most true thing you've ever said.
I don't know. I heard he was saying some pretty true things at Caesars Creek.
I heard him and Kyle Blipes were going at it. Maybe they just need an episode together. Jesus.
Man, I don't need to hear that again.
Kyle, Bob, Jeff, Timmy.
Dude, every time I said something to Blipes, he's like, what? What? I'm like, dude, shut up.
Barry.
I'm disappointed he ain't here. Obviously, he doesn't like tech talk. Or his wife told him to stay off.
No, we banned him.
Oh, is that what it is? We got him blocked. Poor guy.
Yeah.
He was in there.
Oh, he was in there. He said that.
He's probably like, people are being too serious in this chat. I'm out. It's boring.
You heard timing chain, and he's like, "What?"
He looked at his watch, like, "What are you talking about?"
I will say he got to see us at Caesars Creek, and he just sat there, just mind blown, because I don't think he's ever seen us have to work on a boat so much.
Yeah, you shouldn't have
any of the races. That was ridiculous, man.
You worked on the 2.5 more than they worked on the 2.5 more than the GP.
Yeah, definitely probably had more sweat rolling.
Yeah,
that was a weekend.
Somebody's got a good picture of me. I'm covered in that glass, like just ghost white with some gnarly goggles on.
I saw Bobby. He wasn't helping at all. He's just in his driving suit. Like, I'm a driver this weekend.
What are you talking about? I was helping. Jeff Bernard was helping.
Coke slushies.
Dude, driving for Timmy Collins was the best. Shut up. He has a slushy machine.
Yeah.
He had cherry and then he had Coca-Cola.
Veteran.
Man, that was the spot.
Jason asked, in the spirit of keeping the class competitive, do you think it would be advantageous to share setup information? What do you guys think?
In terms of
like hardware?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it's, again, back to the Honda, eliminates a lot of that because now everybody's on par engine-wise. So now it's simple. You know, everyone runs, and everybody runs a range of a 1016 to a 1019, depending on the course, and then you got your gears. I feel like if there's a transition to Honda, there needs to be a baseline gear set. Like you're told X 20% overdrive or whatever is a baseline, and then you work from there. You can't be throwing these guys to the wolves, not knowing what to run. But other than that, I think boat setup becomes. I think we're all fair in that matter. If somebody's like, "Hey, what's your strut depth?" Like, I'm struggling here. I think the racing community is awesome. They'll help you out. Timing and in a 2300. Yeah, we won't have to do any of that with the Ford or the Honda. That's good. And yeah, I don't know. The timing ranges depends who you talk to on a 2300. Anywhere from like 36 to 45.
could be like us, just wait till the end of the year to get your cam time.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
And then
that's
we're told
again
that-
It's still not
again
ready.
the
we were still going to
right, and then the Ford is you can adjust cam time and you can adjust ignition time and you can adjust now all those things work within a fuel curve too. So now you got to tune that carburetor to where you think that cam time is at. All that stuff changes anytime you change cam timing. Now it changes what jets you need. So that's where again you're just kicking yourself. I mean, the people that know are good and they don't share that stuff. I mean, we asked many questions trying to figure this thing out, and valve spring pressure, like there is so much to a Ford. That's why they get so much money for them, and you got to go spend it at the right places. But
And then you're told, oh, there's nothing to these carburetors. You don't need to do much to them. Then you talk to another guy, and he's got $1,300 in one carburetor.
yeah, so it's that. And I was looking on VDL's website because that's who we got a carburetor from back in the day, and it's like track legal carburetor. I'm like, y'all post this? Like, yeah, I can buy this cheating carburetor, but it's track legal. This is awesome. We didn't buy that one.
I don't care how much carburetor costs.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't let you touch them.
We're banned.
Nope.
I've never seen someone put a bowl upside down on a carburetor.
That was the first time. Second time I put that thing back, exactly how it came apart, and it didn't work. Even Uncle G said he didn't know what was wrong with it.
Just don't change that follower and drop the valve into the engine midday. The bad part is that was not the first time that's happened with you guys.
No, I dropped the valve in the engine
in Caesar's Creek.
when we were working at the
Okay,
shop
yeah.
one
I
time.
remember there was like the rope trick to get it up and stuff, and then it happens at a race.
In my defense,
We did the rope
I
trick.
came up to the situation already in a bad spot to where like I was doing something on the fin with him, and Dad's like, "Get up here,
Oh shit,
Kyle, get away." Everybody
was
shut
too,
up
fucking
and stop
hilarious.
touching the boat. Don't move the goddamn boat. And I like he already had the spring, the tool
Yep.
pressed down on the spring, and I pulled it, and it wasn't dropped yet. But the keeper was already
your finger
gone.
your
And then
finger
he
strength
tried to-
wasn't
Yeah,
good.
it was.
plugs in and shook it up.
It was fine.
I like that, Kyle. Get away.
Dude, it's so funny. I was like, don't gotta tell me twice.
Yeah, in his defense, I was with him the last time we did that and dropped the valve, so I had some experience in it already.
Exactly.
Me and Dad dropped one in the shop when I think it was after the boat flipped, and we're trying to go through everything, and I think we're changing out followers or something, and then next thing you know, keeper pops out and the valve goes thump. Took out a spark plug, put some rope down in the spark plug hole, turned the engine over, let that piston with the rope push that valve back up. We were so lucky.
That would have been nice.
All right,
Yeah,
so next episode.
Did we even? I don't even think we planned for this episode so hard. We don't even know what we're doing next week. Hey, maybe next week we have the boys from what's that thing called? Liberty and a Can on. They want to come on. Brand new sponsors in the sport of hydroplane racing. That'd be awesome. Get their take on why they did it, why they choose hydroplane racing, what they loved about it. So maybe we'll see if they're available. Obviously, now's the time to market yourself as racers. This is Q4. If you want sponsorship dollars, even from small companies, it matters more to do it now. That's why we're ramping up our stuff.
Yeah, don't wait until halfway through winter or spring, because all their sponsorship money is generally gone and already out the door. Right now is the time to get your sponsors. So, I mean, I just learned this from Brandon. He's the one that gets them all, not me.
Yeah, we try. It's hard, but
Tell Bob to smile.
yeah, I would get into that. The Honda's way more marketable than the 2300, but I don't really know. I know it's marketable to them import guys, but we're not tuning them like they are, so that maybe it's not.
And also, I do want to give credit to Brandon. He has put in 99.9% of the work, and so big thank you to him.
Make everybody
doing
come
all
after
this.
me now. I appreciate you.
So they gotta get past me first.
But on that point too, and I keep saying that like all night. This might go all night. Back in the day when we talked about the Duratec, I talked to Mike Delhanty, which was the motorsports marketing guy at Ford, and he said the only way Ford would come on as a series sponsor is if we signed a deal to change engines every 5 to 10 years. I forget which number it was. But basically that you update it. That way you were running current stuff. Obviously we're not there. So we're never going to have that like factory backing like other sports do.
You just made 10 people park their boat just by saying
that. That's it. But yeah, we're at the 2-hour mark, folks. We appreciate you being on. I think this was one of our most productive meetings yet. I think hopefully you learned a lot about the Honda that you didn't know before. Hopefully your opinions changed. Hopefully we can get this thing passed. Obviously we're pushing for it. I think it's better for the sport. And next week's going to be a good episode, and we'll tell you what it's going to be later.
And make sure.
Actually, we're going to every other weekend.
Are we?
Week now. Yeah, we talked about this like
that was a month ago. We still got a lot to talk about.
Make sure if you have input or questions or anything about.
All right. Let's do that. We'll keep going until we start running out of stuff to talk about. Then we'll go to every other.
I think what would be fun too is our viewers give us some guests. We got a little guest list that we're working on, some brand people outside of boat racing from some of the manufacturers that we work with and other things, sponsor stuff like that. But if you have someone that you think would be great on this podcast, you want to hear their story more in depth, send their name our way. We'll get in contact with them, try to get them on here. Bobby, what you got to say?
As long as we're not talking okay. About vintage.
Yeah. Well, we do have a vintage episode. It's coming sometime this winter. We have to really schedule it, and we're going to put a lot of work into this one. It's going to be Mike Monahan and Dan Camfouche.
I'm skipping that one.
Bob, you're the only host.
You're the main host for that one.
We're not on.
We'll be in the comments.
Yeah. 2 guys I made retire from 2.5 stock.
It would be Bobby between the stash.
Between the stash.
But anyway, we'll do our closing segment. Anybody got any last thoughts?
I think it went well. There's still some. I think majority of people were open to it. There was a few who were at the beginning. They did not like the whole idea, and there was still one who was still dead against it. But you're always going to have that one. So I mean, they'll still be competitive like they were last year against Hondas. So I don't think they'll be discouraged in the future when they're running against Hondas. So
for sure. Right. So that's it for episode 26. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow. We're going to put out a bunch of content coming soon. We're going to ramp this page up big time. And stay tuned to the next episode. We'll see who's coming on, and we'll let you know this week. Peace.
Sure.
Let's go Honda.
Go Honda.